Well, hi again. Welcome to I probably think the last part of this lecture. And in this part, we will basically go over the practice questions. And let me go over them. I will basically go over them as fast as I can. In the last one, I will spend more time. I think they are relatively easy, basically. As school season starts in September, think a good you choose. Well, I should actually erase the as part. Write how demand and supply and equilibrium point of that good will be affected by the school season. Well, for example, school season means there will be more need for the transportation, which will probably increase demand for transportation. So demand for transportation will increase. However, supply for transportation will remain the same, which will increase the quantity, equilibrium quantity and equilibrium price of transportation. It might also prevent families to go to, go to holidays. So, the hotel demand for hotels might basically fall as a result. So, equilibrium quantity and equilibrium price might fall. These are the ones I can think of. There won't be change in income and substitutes and complements. You might think about. I don't know whether you can think about substitutes and complements of goods related to education. Maybe you can also connect education to that site. On the supply side, I don't know. Well, when transportation costs, for example, increase, maybe that might increase input costs for companies, and that might maybe decrease supply in some sectors. I don't know. In questions like this, you don't need to go and make an actual research. Rather, you should think about and kind of connect the models to your thinking, logical thinking. So your idea should make sense and should be connected to what we have seen in the main part of the course. Those two things are good enough. You don't need to. It's kind of like it's called like hypothesis. This might be true type of idea should be presented in such questions. In real science, this hypothesis stating or these ideas serve as a first step of research, and then you make the research to test the idea you have. But here, of course, it's not necessary in this course. Assume there is an excess demand in the market for coffee in TRNC. How will demand market return to equilibrium? Since there is excess demand, it is a case like this. We have a shortage or excess demand. So the price level will increase because buyers will be willing to pay a higher price since some of them are not able to buy coffee. As price increase, the quantity demanded will decrease, quantity supply will increase up to the point when quantity demand and quantity supply is equal to each other, and the coffee market has returned to the equilibrium price. So, okay. In recent years, equilibrium price of oil has been falling, but write a factor that could have created such a trend. Increase in technology. What might make the price of equilibrium price of oil to fall? One thing might be increase in supply. What might have created increase in supply? Increase in technology, maybe increase in input costs. For example, maybe the machinery of the oil extraction produced more cheaply, or maybe there is a technological development in oil extraction. Or demand might have fallen down. While corona crisis might have decreased the demand, or global recession might have decreased demand, or alternatives like electricity and nuclear power might have of oil might have decreased. The substitute prices might have decreased the demand of oil. So it might be decrease in demand might be a factor that one might drive the price down, or increase in supply might be a factor also that might have decreased the price down. Okay. How do you think coronavirus might have affected the supply of a typical good? Your argument should be proven, not be proven empirically, but you should connect it to a theoretical model of demand and supply. Again, mask might be the case, and in case of the mask, demand might have increased and supply might have decreased. So it is something like this: demand increased from D to D, comma, and supply decreased from S to S, comma. In that case, the equilibrium price has increased and equilibrium quantity is ambiguous. We don't know it. Alternatively, it might also be possible, for example, certain goods, for example, entertainment, going to cinema demand for cinema tickets might have fallen down because people don't want to go out and basically go out and spend time. For example, popcorn prices might have similarly fallen down because no one wants to go to cinema. Supply might have also gone down in this case because for the popcorn production, again, there might be some additional measures to be taken to provide safety, so labor costs might have increased. If that's the case, equilibrium price might have stayed more or less constant, but equilibrium quantity might have fallen down significantly. Okay. Assume demand in tourism market remains the same, and while supply increases, what happens to the equilibrium point? Demand is the same, supply increases. This is the case. In that case, the equilibrium price will go down, equilibrium quantity will increase. Okay. Okay, this is the last question. I will reproduce it, so you cannot see the bottom part, but I will reproduce the table anyway. And then the question asks what is the excess supply and demand at 2 and 0.5, and then if QD increases 20 kilogram and QS increases 10 kilogram, what will be the equilibrium price and quantity? So how do we reproduce it, this kind of question, in Excel? Let me write price, QD, and QS. Let me make this larger. As much as possible. I hope you can see it. So price is decreases by 0.25 and I'm sorry, 0.25 in this case. Quantity starts with 20. Demanded, quantity supplied by 140, and quantity demanded increases by 10, quantity supplied decreases by 20. Now we go all the way to this point. So let's make it a little bit more neat. Put some. Okay. Now, let's say excess demand or excess supply. This basically means if we have minus, that would mean excess demand. So for each price level, by subtracting quantity supplied and quantity demanded, we can easily find excess demand and excess supply. So at the price level 2, excess supply is 120, 140 minus 20, that's how you find it. At the price level 0.5, excess supply is minus 60, which means we have actually an excess demand, which is 60 units. That's 80 minus 20. So equilibrium point is the point when excess demand and excess supply both are 0. Now, let's create a similar second graph. But now we will increase the QD by 20 for each price level and decrease QS by 10 for each price level. So this should be this price level plus 20, was it 20? 20 and 10. And this is minus 10. So what is my new equilibrium point? My new equilibrium point is the point when excess demand and excess supply both are 0, which is at which the equilibrium price is 1.25 and equilibrium quantity is 70. Well, basically, this is how you solve this question. Let me briefly also show you how to draw a graph. Well, let's do a scatter graph like this. Okay. And you take so you take demand, X values are quantities here, Y values are prices. Okay, and then you will have supply. Again, X values will be now quantity supplied, and Y values will be the prices. So this will be the graph. 1 and 60 are the values at which you have the equilibrium point. You can develop it by adding adding a legend, demand and supply, and then you might also put a heading which might be demand and supply, and also even you can actually do like something like this. This is price. This is quantity. And if you want, you can also add the new demand and new supply curves. For example, let me add the new demand with X values. These are the X values, and Y values are the prices. So you can see what will happen if the demand shifts. Similarly, you can also add the new supply, and you can find a new equilibrium point, and you can find also the new equilibrium point if just demand has shifted, and if just in case just supply has shifted. So this is how you can represent how you can solve the question using Excel, and this is pretty much the end of this lecture. Well, I hope to see you in the next week, and you can ask me any questions you have on this topic or anything else. And as always, let me say, stay healthy.